What do you think of the racial situation here at Camp Tenshaw?
Well, the racial situation here in Camp Tenshaw, it's improving a little, but it's up to the captain to straighten everything out.
Such as what? What needs straightening?
Well, such as writing on the wall and people calling your names and things, and some of the Vietnamese girls work in the club, they act as though, they don't want to serve you and things. And, they call you names too, and when you fire them up for it, you have to go to the brig for it and things.
What are you doing right now?
Well, right now, I'm in CC correctional custody.
What for?
Firing up a Vietnamese girl.
What do you mean by that?
Hitting her.
Why?
Well, I went in there to get a pack of cigarettes, and she was acting as though, she didn't want to get up and get the cigarettes for me. And I asked her what was her problem. And so we started exchanging a few words, and she called me a black man, a bad word, So I hit her, and her boyfriend jumped me. So I had to protect myself, and I hit him, and I got rolled up for it. So they gave me 30 days correctional custody.
You had any other trouble like that?
Yes, I had a few incidents, like when you want to get served, raise your hand up for a beer, where they'll pass by and go over and serve a white guy or something. And,
well, that's the Vietnamese. What about the whites who are here in the Navy?
Well, the white guys over here in the Navy, most of them are all right, but some of them, seem as though they prejudiced, and they pass by in trucks, and you be thumbing going to China Beach somewhere, and they won't stop and pick you up. And it could be raining, they still won't pick you up.
Well, there have been some grievance meetings with the CO and listing of complaints. Anything been done about this?
Not to my knowing.
Have you been in on the meetings?
I've been to one.
What'd you think of it?
Well, they sent it was a brother lieutenant over, and he was talking to us to find out the situation, and I haven't heard anything about it since.
How long ago was that?
About 2 weeks, maybe a week and a half.
This place, for 3 years, has been known as Camp Tension, not Camp Tenshaw. Do you think it lives up to that name?
Well, I couldn't say.
Not as far as you're concerned?
No, not as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, thanks a lot. John, what's the racial situation like here at Camp Tenshaw?
Well, at the present time, in the last few months, there's been quite a bit of disagreement between the colored people and the white people here. Quite a few fights and people being beat up, and it seems quite bad in general.
Why is it?
I don't really know, sir. I've heard different stories of it, but I don't really believe there was any reason for these people to have these problems, because they haven't got things they want, or they're doing it to get something they want. I don't know why they're doing it.
I assume by they, you're talking about the Negroes.
Right.
Are they the instigators?
Yes, it definitely seems to me that they was this here. The last trouble that I have seen, it was definitely the Negroes that caused it. They ganged up in around 50 to 75 guys and marched on Tenshaw in the annex. We had 15 guys beat up one night, and the men marched on off-limits areas, and there was nothing done to them. They wasn't broke up or anything. They took the chow hall over. They beat the master-at-arms up in the chow hall, and just things like this.
Have the men responsible been punished?
There was not one apprehension or military arrest of the 15 guys that beat up that I know of. There was no way we could arrest these men because we was in kind of a bad situation. The show patrol here don't carry weapons, and all these men that were marching, I know that there was 10 or 15 weapons amongst them. We tried to disperse them. They locked and loaded on us and told us if we messed with them, they'd kill us. So we had no choice but to just leave them be.
The situation this is Camp Tension, not Tenshaw, then?
No, this is definitely well, Tenshaw and mostly here in Tenshaw, I guess.
No, I mean that I've always heard Camp Tenshaw referred to as Camp Tension. You go along with that?
That's right. This has been going on now. I've been here 8 months, and we've always had a racial problem here.
Why is that?
I can't understand it. I believe the main reason that it is because they do not conform to military regulations here, and they're not made to conform to them. They get away with a lot of things that the white guys can't get away with there, such as growing goatees, beards, and this. Quite a few Negroes walk around here with them, where a white guy, he's not allowed to wear them. And it just brewed up until it turned into something pretty big.
What do you think of the racial situation here at Camp Tenshaw?
I believe that the racial problems we have here is caused from new guys coming into the Navy that has been used to pulling the same stuff in civilian life. And they come in the service, they think they can do the same thing. And the problem we had here was caused mostly by Marine and Army personnel. Most of those were over the hill from their duties, and they came down here marching and protesting here on this base, beating up white guys and stuff. And I believe that the lives that were lost in this could have been saved if the shore patrol had been properly armed instead with a nightstick and a hard hat.
You get a lot of transients in here, don't you? It isn't restricted to Navy.
Yes, we get a lot of Army personnel and Marine personnel that come in here to pick up supplies and stuff, and they stay on the Navy base here in transit. And we have to try to regulate what they do, but it's hard to do. We keep all Army and Navy Air Force personnel from the clubs, except the ones attached directly to Camp Tenshaw, and still they get in and cause trouble. I believe that the trouble we have here wasn't caused by the personnel we have here, except maybe a couple.
How do you rate race relations right here within the guys assigned to Tenshaw?
Well, we have a few here on this base that are big race right leaders, and they want to do this stuff, but here in Camp Tenshaw, we keep it pretty well regulated. I don't believe this would have ever occurred if the Marine and Army personnel hadn't been allowed to come on the base.
Thank you very much. Jerry, what do you think of the racial situation here at Camp Tenshaw?
Yes, sir. I'm attached here to Camp Tenshaw Shore Patrol. I've been in Vietnam approximately 10 months, and we're having a lot of racial problems around here. We've had 3 or 4 muggings in the last 3 or 4 months, and right here lately, a group of Negroes, about 50 to 75, took over Camp Tenshaw. They walked down the middle of the street and dared anyone to mess with them. They locked and loaded on Shore Patrol when we went out there to apprehend them. They had their weapons, and Shore Patrol doesn't have any weapons. They marched off limits, and no apprehensions were made on them. They went down to a place called the APLs and held meetings with an officer down there and were expressing their grievances, but nothing has been worked out yet. I don't see where any satisfaction they've got or what their gripes were, but it seems to me that nothing has been done to them at all for this.
How do you think the race relations are? How do the white sailors feel about the Negro sailors?
There's hard feelings right around here between both sides, the Negro and the Caucasian. They don't get along too good. They stay to themselves. Each group stays to themselves.
In the mess hall, in the clubs, every place?
Yes, sir. In the mess hall, they go back in the corner, and in the clubs, they go back in the corner. They just stay segregated from each other. The men is not getting along at all.
You rolling? New York, we've gone on a lash up here with direct power through the power pack. I hope the hell it works. Paul, what's the racial situation like here at Camp Tenshaw?
Well, I've been over in the country only 2 months, but in that 2 months, I've been attached to CPS Shore Patrol. And here approximately about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, the racial problem started. We was called out one night to break up a group of anywhere from 50 to 75 Negroes. And we went out on the main street of Camp Tenshaw here and was going to break them up, and they locked and loaded M16s and 45s on us. And we just had hard hats and nightsticks on us. They told us to either leave or they was going to start shooting, so we didn't have no alternative except run. and they walk on the out-of-bounds limits and off-limits outside the gates, and there's no apprehensions. They're never taken in or nothing. I don't know what they're trying to prove or anything. I mean, we're over here fighting a war. We're trying to fight a war for the Vietnamese people and against communism. Here we got to turn around and fight our own people. I don't understand it.
How would you rate the relations right now between black and white on Tenshaw?
Here within the last 3-4 days, it's been quiet, but the tension is still built up. Everybody's still uneasy, and you never know if it's going to break out again at any time or what. But right now, the tension is still awful high.
We made it. Thank you. 1, 2, 3, okay? Fine. Ron, what's racial relations like here at Camp Tenshaw?
Well, actually, it's a horrible problem going on right now. We've had some conflict, and I think that actually there should be something done about it, because myself, I think I can speak for several other black people, other brothers, and we're tired. We're tired. We over here fighting for something that some of us don't even believe in. Some of us come to the service to get ourselves together up here, and others come because they don't have anything else to do or they're forced to by the service. But I came to get myself together, and these people are going to drive me crazy. I think that there is a solution to the problem, but no one man can find the solution as of yet. I've been to several meetings here, but we've drawn no conclusions. All we've been doing is beating around the bush. Sooner or later, there will be something done, because the people over here, the brothers, we'd rather die on our feet than to keep living on our knees. The problems really exist with the name calling, just as it is back in the world. Now, if something is done about it here, where it really begins, then when the people go back out into the streets, then they'll know how to act, and then they'll be good citizens. But here, it's been going on like this in the selective service for many years, and nothing has been done about it. But now, I think we have a chance, and I hope something's done about it.
Did you volunteer to come over here?
Yes, I volunteered to come over here.
Why?
Because I told you, I figured that my brothers were coming over here dying. I wanted to come and see if it was as horrible as people said it was. And actually, it's not that horrible. But the thing is, going through the day-to-day routines with the name calling and what have you, I think that has a lot to do with it. It'll break a man down mentally, if not physically, because the work, it's not that bad. No, I don't think it's that bad. I volunteered to get myself together to see if what people came back from here said it was, and it's not. It's not.
What do you think's going to happen here at Camp Tenshaw?
Well, I've been listening around, and some of the people said that if something's not done about it, what's happening right down here at Camp Tenshaw has been heard all up north, and I think this would be a pretty horrible thing if all of the brothers stop fighting like they said they're going to do. And I think they will do it because they're tired. They're over here fighting for the people back in the world, and when they get back to the world, they're treated like animals. I wouldn't take it, you wouldn't take it, you're a man. It's not called for.
How come? It's illegal, they say. It's against regulation. They come down hard. We have to. All right, if you don't take it off before you come in the theater, you don't get in theater. You know, this is the way they do this thing. Right on. They said the afro was legal. Am I right or wrong? That's right. That's what they said, it was legal. We can sport an afro. All right. This man, there's a lot of brothers here. This man here's got an afro. This is an afro right here. Or somewhat of an afro. It's not big, no. But they want us to wear skin head. What they call it? High and tight. High and tight. It's not my culture. Am I right or wrong? They come over here, they get, all right, a Vietnamese girl. She called me a nigger. A nigga, a Vietnamese girl. I know it's not part of their language. Can't nobody tell me that's part of their language. But I'm going to go over here. The beast, you know that. See, we go over here, we fight. Okay, we fight to defend the water we drink, the land we grow our food on, and our way of culture. We also fight to protect Rockefeller's foundations. We fight to protect J.P. Kennedy's foundation. All these different kind of foundations that the black man can't partake of, you understand? And then we go back, we're continuously harassed. It's not necessary. This ain't what we heard. This is what we know. See, we've seen it from the bird's eye point of view. We are the people here now, see. We see it now. This ain't what we heard, you know.
I know y'all haven't been out in the Ville. Now, just like he said, these Oriental people don't know where the word nigga came from or nothing. They have to learn how to speak it. You go out there in that Ville. The first time I come over here, I goes out in the Ville, I falls into one of these places, and I'm thrown out because I'm black, you know? Because I'm black. They don't like us. They say, we start trouble. Now, who done put this stuff in their mind? You know what I mean? The beasts came over here and brainwashed these people. We get out here and try to do our thing, and they wants to downrate us.
Right on.
Because we're black. Because the beasts came over here and told them that we ain't nothing but trouble. Right. Because we got a strong rapper and they scared we're going to take the women away from them. You know what I mean?
A part of the American story is the evolution of America's armed forces and the overlooked narrative of the black service member. Often, in the face of racial discrimination, many African Americans volunteered to serve under the most challenging circumstances, only to prevail heroically. One such American was Dan Bullock. Born in Goldsboro, North Carolina, he dreamed at an early age of becoming a pilot, a police officer, a Marine. On May 8, 1969, Private First Class Dan Bullock arrived in Vietnam. 1 month later, he was dead. As the youngest American killed during the Vietnam War, PFC Bullock has never been fully recognized for his service to his country. This is his story.
Up together. That was my best friend. Yeah. And everybody loved him. You know, he was wonderful. He was smart, intelligent, and very adventurous. We had long distance trucks that we would put match stems on. The big matches for the officers and the little ones for the regular soldiers. Right. And we would get in the backyard and we would play war.
After Dan's grandmother died, the family moved to Brooklyn, New York, where Dan's aspirations and dreams of joining the military grew. At the age of 14, Dan Bullock would make a decision that will alter the course of his life.
He just wanted to make a difference and change, and ever since he was little, he always wanted to go into the military. It's not clear who helped him alter his birth certificate, because my grandfather said he didn't, you know, but Dan was so very mature for his age, and we was all proud of him.
I met Dan Bullock in October 1968 in boot camp, and he didn't make it in the platoon he was in, so they put him in my platoon, and I really hadn't met him yet, but I saw him for the first time then. After he failed a couple of runs, we were beginning to get punished as a result of him not keeping up, and some of the Marines, white Southern Marines, wanted to give him a blanket party. I overheard them talking about giving him a blanket party, and I interceded on his behalf. I was from Brooklyn, and I knew then he was from Brooklyn, and I felt an obligation to try to help him out. The fact that he was only 14 years old, and it was something that he probably needed to be about 18 or 19 in order to be able to do. It was the toughest thing I ever did, and anybody could ever do, is go through Marine Corps boot camp. And I don't think he was mentally ready for it yet. I didn't know a lot about Dan because in boot camp, you don't get a lot of opportunities to talk. But I did realize eventually that he was determined. He loved the Marine Corps. He loved his family. And he tried very hard. He tried hard. and I could see that he needed help. The day of graduation from boot camp is the day that we all get to meet and celebrate our victories as far as graduating from boot camp. So I had an opportunity to speak with him then and a few other Marines, and we were all looking forward to just going home and being with our families. I didn't actually go to Vietnam, but Dan did.
Well, the situation in early 1969 in Vietnam, this was a period when we had reached peak troop strength. We maxed out at around 545,000 troops in the Military Assistance Command Vietnam. And so this was the moment when the United States was bringing its maximum strength to bear. The war had gone on for over 3 years at a very high intensity by this point, and it seemed clear to everyone on both sides that the United States was not going to win a victory in the traditional sense of the word by this stage. Negotiations were underway with the North Vietnamese, and so this was a period where the United States was fighting for an outcome where the South Vietnamese government would eventually be able to go it more or less alone. So as the phrase was at the time, the United States was fighting for time. And so in Quang Nam province, where Dan Bullock was to serve with the 1st Marine Division, this was one of the critical areas in the country and had been since the United States had really gotten involved in a big way in 1965. The An Hoa Valley, which is south and west of the city of Da Nang, was a heavily populated, very fertile basin that had produced a lot of food, a lot of manpower. There was also a Marine combat base called the An Hoa Combat Base at the sort of southern edge of the valley. This is where Dan Bullock would eventually be stationed.
Dan Bullock and I landed in Vietnam together. We were assigned to the same unit. 2nd platoon of Fox Company had lost most of a platoon, so they took replacements and put them in this one platoon, 2nd platoon. There were only 11 men left after a Mother's Day mortar attack. So we were in the rear at An Hoa Fire Base, and that's we didn't go out to the bush. We were waiting for the men to come back. And in that time, we got to know each other, not too well because Dan was protecting a secret. But we did talk. I befriended him because the men who were in the field, who came back to the rear, didn't like Dan for some reason. They didn't know what it was, but they were kind of angry with him. He didn't do anything. He didn't speak. He was okay. He and I would spar. He and I would go to chow together. And I felt like a big brother to him. And I outranked the other men. I was a Lance Corporal, they were PFCs. So I would keep them from harassing him.
At this point in the war, the troops that were fighting, the American troops, and Marines and soldiers and airmen and naval personnel, were a mix of drafted people and people who had volunteered. If you, let's say, entered the service and you were 18 or 19, you'd go to basic training, and you would go through the system that would turn you into basically a private or the equivalent of a private first class within a year or so. Now, a lot of those soldiers or Marines were in fact sent to Vietnam pretty much out of their advanced infantry training. So they hadn't been in the service probably more than a year or so, and they were put into a dangerous situation almost from the moment they stepped off the plane. However, they weren't simply thrown in as cannon fodder. It wasn't callous, in that sense. It wasn't a meat grinder. The United States military was doing everything that it could to ensure that those young men would be successful. For a lot of these young Marines like Dan Bullock, it might have been several weeks before they actually saw action. But when they did start going out on patrols and start participating in these operations, they were expected to pull their weight, from the moment they stepped outside the wire. So it is hard to wrap your head around, I think, how disorienting that would have been, especially someone, let's say, from maybe a sheltered environment or a privileged environment or an inner city. Usually it took several months to bring those new troops, up to speed, and everyone, recognized that got to go easy on them in the beginning. Usually after about 3 months or so, they would get up to speed, and usually between 3 to 9 months is when they would have, peak efficiency.
He would go out on these small patrols. We'd check out bunkers. We'd check the wire to make sure the enemy didn't cut it. We'd be on bunker duty at night, filling sandbags during the day, and all this until the company came back. When they came back from the Arizona Territory, they were in no mood for new men, myself included. They did not like breaking in new men because we didn't know the sights, sounds, smells, or what to do during an attack. These are all combat veterans. And for some reason, which we found out later, it was Dan did everything he was told to do, and yet he was the last person picked for bunker duty or whatever. And the day of the attack, he and I were sparring, and he dislocated my thumb. So I couldn't use my rifle that night. So I was sent to guard tanks. He went to the bunkers, and that night the enemy broke in. They used satchel charges, sacks of explosives. They tossed onto the bunkers or into the bunkers and blew them up, and that then the other ones could infiltrate. They were trying to blow up stores of ammunition, like artillery shells, and if they could, planes or whatever. They didn't really get through. Some of them broke through. One of them actually made it into the regimental area. But Dan's bunker and everyone in it, the 4 men were in it, Bunn, Honeycutt, Eggensdorfer, and Bullock, were all killed, probably instantly, because none of them got out of the bunker. The enemy that got over the bunker, we heard later, had fired into it just to make sure they had killed everyone in it. So there possibility of gunshot wounds and explosion.